A substitute teacher in charge of some of your kids allegedly caught drinking alcohol in the classroom. District says it's still looking into the matter. First at 4, Stephen Hernandez digging into the case.
Lorain High School parents wondering what exactly happened here yesterday. A staff member allegedly found a substitute teacher with an alcoholic beverage. So how could this happen? The district not saying much today, but parents did receive this email, saying in part that another staff member reportedly saw a substitute drinking what appeared to be an alcoholic beverage, not only during school hours, but get this, while students were in the classroom. School workers immediately pulled the staff member out of the room and made sure the students were okay. I reached out to the school district looking for the name of the substitute teacher, as well as if any of the students were even in any danger. And they told me they are not available to comment during an active investigation. Meanwhile, Lorain Mayor Jack Bradley says he understands that parents may feel uneasy at this time.
Well, I can understand a parent would be concerned if there was an intentional consumption of alcohol on the job, no matter what the job is.
Mayor Bradley also added he's not sure how long the investigation will last, but that his office has not been tapped to be a part of it. In Lorain, Stephen Hernandez, 19 News.